It's time for the show that brings the magic right to your speakers. Ears up!
Welcome, everybody. It is Ears Up Podcast. We're here today to talk to you about a lot of stuff. One of which is the PeopleMover.
Yeah. I have the mic.
The rest of which is probably mostly negative.
But it's not our fault.
It's different for us.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Look, those of you following Disney news closely over the past few weeks, you know there's been some issues going on, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to try to be as positive as possible, which today specifically is really hard for me, but in general it's kind of hard. So, bear with us, and we're going to be honest. That's what we do on the show. We're honest with our feelings, and we're not going to say, oh, well, here's all the reasons why everything is so great and wonderful, because we're just like you. We're fans of Disneyland, and if you get priced out of going to the place that you really like to go to, well, it kind of stinks. So, I don't know, we'll chat about it a little bit and see if we can buck each other's spirits up.
Exactly.
What do you think of that? And it's, you know what, dude, doing radio is weird because, honestly, I was like, man, I'm not going to bring up the price change for a little bit. I'm just going to, I'll do that later on in the show. No, right out the gate. Right out the gate. Anyway, thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. This is going to be a good episode. We're going to talk history of the PeopleMover. We're going to talk to Jeremy from SpectroRadio, I believe is how that's pronounced. And then our close personal friend, Mr. Kyle Sherman, is coming back on the show to talk to us about Star Wars Land and what that means for Disneyland. Crowd index-wise, I feel, would be kind of a cool thing, because we've all talked in this room before, especially online, that we all think, oh, well, the crowds are going to be less because there's more room in Disneyland, in Star Wars Land, and I disagree with that, because now there's more square footage.
They have more capacity.
You have more capacity. But Kyle's going to chime in on that, and then I want to talk to him about what's going on in downtown Disney, how he thinks that's going to impact the parks and the new hotel, and kind of just, whatever he wants to talk about, really. Kyle's one of those dudes where he doesn't know all of the things that he knows. So you kind of just, like, it just comes out in conversation, and he'll just go off on a tangent and then come back to something. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that you knew that. Well, neither did I. So that'll be really cool. And then we have Disney news, of course, and then and that's it. Then we're going to record the secret show afterwards.
Yeah, it's a long night, man.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So anyway, find us on iTunes. Rate us on iTunes, please. I'm sure that helps. We're on TuneIn, Stitcher. We're also airing on SpectroRadio.us. I don't know if you knew that or not. So you can get your weekly dose of us, or I don't know how often we're on there, but we're on there. It's a good station. You were just listening to that. If you listen live, we play a little Spectro for you before the show. And I realized before the show, I was like, God, every time we tune in, every time we record, it's the same songs over and over again. Uh-huh. And then I realized, well, because it's Illuminations or whatever at the same time, like on Thursdays or whatever, and that's because
he follows the schedule.
He follows the schedule for certain things, yeah. And I'm like, oh, that makes a whole lot of sense now.
But maybe he shouldn't. Maybe he should follow our schedule and give us a special Ears Up 20 minutes.
Maybe.
Or maybe we should just take it.
Yeah, just hack
This is
him.
what we want to
Disney
hear.
trap beats.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I know people in Russia. I'll have them hack it in. Find us on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Pinterest. Any feedback on the show, it goes to Terrence at earsup-podcast.com. Any show suggestions goes to Terrence at earsup-podcast.com. And you can say hi to Bev. And anything else comes to me. My name is Jason Petros. And my email address is jason at earsup-podcast.com.
.com?
.com.
That sounds weird.
It does sound weird, doesn't it? Why do you all sound weird? Do you all sound low to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, I'll fix it later. Don't forget to check out our blog. like our animated classics review. Of course, it's all on earsupodcast.com. Kyle Sherman wrote a blog post that I'll probably publish tomorrow, and it's about Terrence's favorite subject, Tupac Shakur. No, it's about Terrence's favorite subject, DCA, Disney's California Adventure.
Yeah.
And Kyle's take on why DCA is the way it is. I'll just tease it.
Okay.
I'll tease it like
I
that.
want to read that.
We're getting a little, a little opinion.
I never want to read our blog. Just kidding.
Neither do I. I'm working on. I'll start working on one too. We got some information, some cool stuff about. Let's tease it about repetitive things in Disneyland.
Yes, that's a good way to say
That's
it.
a good way to say it, right?
I like that.
Oh, my Bay Lake pin fell off.
Oh, there's another blog post we should write about a like an animated classic or something maybe at some point.
God, I gotta do that, John.
Yeah.
Which one are we even? What are we on?
Fantasia.
No, stop it right now. An inappropriate humor. You can support this show via our Amazon link. Do your Amazon shopping via our link that's on the homepage, of course. You can, don't even worry about reoccurring PayPal donations. Who cares about that? I'm going to actually delete that from my notes because, that's really not the best way. The best way is buying Coviers, number one. Mm-hmm. But the second bestest way is go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/earsup, and you can sign up for a reoccurring donation level. And for those levels, you actually get stuff in return. Not only do you get 3 radio shows a month, but you get a gift, a little thing for helping us out, because it really does. It really does keep the lights on and allows us to buy more merch to sell and upgrade our stuff here. I want to get another camera, all this kind of stuff. I need a new computer, blah, 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 blah. Like that. Support our friends. There's a About Us, Friends of Ears Up page on the home page. You can go check that out. And we have a lot of people behind us who have helped us out over the years, and we want to help them out too. And check those people out. And of course, don't forget about our brand new show, Sabers and Superpowers, which has their 5th episode released, I think, a couple of weeks ago, where the crew talk about, I believe, Black Panther. I'm not entirely sure. But that is Anthony and his 2 nerd friends talk about all things Marvel and Star Wars, and they get deep. They get super deep into it, and it's pretty cool. I don't know much of that stuff. But they're entertaining kids, and they have a good time, and you should check them out as well. Before we get to feedback, Taryn, I do want to comment on our show release schedule, because I think either I wasn't clear, I guess, or maybe I didn't even announce it at all. But what we're doing now is we're releasing 2 Ears Up shows a month. We used to be on an every other week schedule,
right,
which 9 times out of 10 landed us at 2 shows a month.
Right.
But sometimes, just the way the weeks work and in the months, we would have 3 shows a month.
Right.
But we have to move to 2 shows a month. It's just it's kind of just the way our personal schedules are going. Bev and Terrence have kids that are getting older. There's more demands on them. Taryn and I are about to have a child. And it's just too much sauce in the world. So we have to. I think as it shakes out over averages over the year, I don't think the amount of shows is going to recede at all. Right. I don't think you're going to get any less shows. If you do, it might be by 1 or 2. I'm not entirely sure.
Right.
I haven't done the math because who has time for that? I have Monster Hunter World to play, but. So don't panic, don't worry about it, but just know that 2 shows a month. So this show is actually going to be the 2nd show for February, even though we're recording it in March, whatever.
Right.
That was my fault. Sorry, guys.
That's all good.
So it's still, we'll still have to push stuff around, but just know 2 Ears Up shows a month, plus the Sabers and Super Shower shows. Super Showers.
All right.
That's R. Kelly.
That sounds
one.
cool. Oh, gross.
Sorry. Sabers and Superpowers show. And so you actually have 3 releases a month guaranteed, even though this releases. Anyway, so we're working on more shows. We're trying to come up with a schedule that works better for us to release content in a semi-timely fashion. So hopefully everyone's chill with that. If you're not, I apologize. But I really don't think it's going to limit us on how many shows we put out at year end. You know what I mean?
We'll be down to.
Think so?
Yeah, no, he
Well-
would be.
Oh,
If
okay.
it's every other week, it'd be 26, and now it'll be 24. But that's not a big deal.
No, I shouldn't think so. I shouldn't think so either. And hey, if you want more of us, join the Patreon
And
at
who
the
doesn't,
$5. Right,
honestly?
right at the $5 limit or $5 amount, you get the secret show where you get a drink recipe and get to hear us say words.
We definitely say words.
We
on that
definitely
one,
say
yeah.
words. We talk about Compton sometimes.
Yes, we do.
We talk about we do Disney news, but it's Disney news that I don't like to bring up on this show.
right.
Controversial Disney
It's
news.
controversial Disney news. Anyway, it's a good time. It's
It's
a
a
hoot.
controversial show. We talk about controversial things.
It's a hoot over there. Maybe I should publish one secret
Nope.
show for free.
Nope.
No. On the Patreon page. So you actually have to just go to the Patreon page and then you see it and you can download it and it's access
okay.
to everybody.
Okay.
So they get a or maybe take a snippet.
We get
How
a
about you
teaser?
take it the
Yeah.
4-hour snippet of us of our rant about the Illuminati? Because that was a fun show.
Oh, that was a thing. That was a thing.
That was the thing. Got this thing on me. All right, Taryn, let's do some feedback, eh? You all right?
Coming.
All right.
Having some sound issues.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, that crackling Jeremy was talking about, I guess he wasn't lying.
Oh.
But
Right.
Is it better now, though?
Thought he was an idiot, but
I turned it down so you can't hear it as much, but it didn't fix the crackling. So, but anyway, I will go on. Feedback. The first one is from James. Thank you for an awesome show. I have a question. Normally, when I visit with my family, we stay on site and are able to park the rental cars on site at the hotel. We're going to Cali for a trip this March, but I will be staying in San Diego instead of Disneyland. We're looking at coming up for a day. Where is the best place to park for the Disneyland? I'm not so worried about the price, more in the location closest to the park. Thanks, James.
So you're coming from San Diego.
For a day.
for a day, then just
You got to pay
yeah,
parking.
We're gonna
tickets.
have to
just
pay the
park in
parking.
garage, yeah.
There's not going to
structure.
be a closer spot. I actually don't even think there is another place.
I don't think
to
so
park.
either. I
It's-
think you're kind of that's.
I
what it
mean,
is.
Yeah, it's all lots.
unless you park in downtown Disney and just pay through
But
the
they,
nose.
yeah,
No,
they
there's
upped
a-
that.
Well,
It's
not
expensive, I
Only,
know.
not
It'd be
only that,
more.
but there's a time frame that you can't park there all day anymore. And so if you are planning on staying, I think it's longer than 6 hours or
Something like that.
Then
I
you have
parked
to
there
park.
for 6 hours, and it was expensive. It was like $46.
I'll just go to the structure. Yeah,
That's crazy. Yeah, just pay the Disney parking. I mean, it's like $15 or $16 or whatever. Even if it's $20, it's going to be cheaper than
I think
downtown
it's-
Disney,
I think it's
which is
$20.
that's what they want. They want you to park at the structure. They don't want you to park at the downtown Disney if you're going to be there for a long time.
yeah, they want high
So-
turnover in those spaces there. So yeah,
Yeah, so that's our professional recommendation.
Yes. This next one is from Melissa. Hi, all. I've been listening to you all since 2014.
Wow.
Holy moly, she says. When a
She
Redditor,
can't even believe it.
yeah, when a Redditor posted about your podcast on the Disneyland subreddit, which is kind of cool in and of itself.
Mazel.
Mazel. At that time, I believe there were only 5 or 6 episodes available. When I first started listening, my husband, then boyfriend, and I were annual pass holders and ended up getting him hooked on listening as well. Ears Up was the only thing we listened to in the car when we would take our weekend trips to the park. Since then, he and I have listened to every episode. I even try to catch the episodes live because interacting with you all is half the fun of listening to the episode, which is awesome.
That's so sweet.
This is a little late, but I wanted to let you all know how much fun we had at the 100th show.
Ooh. It's never too late to praise the 100th show. I'm
Yeah.
just going to be honest.
That's true. It was really wonderful to meet you all in person, and I was so sad that we weren't able to meet up in the parks and talk more. I had recently found out that we were expecting baby Oberg, which is a boy, by the way, due in
Yes.
July.
Baby Conrad.
Congratulations. Oh, my goodness.
Strong name. Come on.
Stop it.
Terrence.
Someone do it. All right.
It's
You didn't even do it.
Right,
Yeah.
I wasn't Conrad then, and I had a girl.
it's a strong name, but not strong enough to name his 2 boys Conrad.
I wasn't called Conrad then.
You didn't call yourself Conrad. To be
No.
fair, nobody calls you Conrad except Starbucks employees.
That's true. That is true. That's a good
Anybody
point.
who has a reservation.
Right.
Go ahead.
So she was expecting, and she was feeling under the weather, and so we decided begrudgingly to head home. Well, we were talking to Terrence at the live show. He mentioned that you had all known each other before you started the podcast, and I was curious as to how you all met. I don't believe you've ever talked about that on the show, but I could be wrong. I'm excited to see how the show evolves once baby Petros is here, and I'm interested to see how Jason's attitude about the park changes.
I hate it.
Personally, I can already tell that I will probably be more sympathetic to parents with strollers.
Yeah.
I hope you're hanging in there, Taryn. Thank you. Any tips or mama advice you can send my way is greatly appreciated. Anyways, thanks for everything. Thanks for everything you all do to keep the show up and running. And I can't wait to get a beer with you all next time you're in the parks. I really want a beer. I would even settle on drinking Ballast Point.
Oh, geez. Look at you.
See you in the parks, Melissa.
All right. How did we meet? Well, the truncated version, because, we've already been at it for 15 minutes, which is the length of our show.
Yeah.
Sure it is.
How did, just on, so Terrence
and I go to church
Beverly-
together. We've known each other for a long time.
There you go. Yeah. So, oddly enough, I wasn't focusing on how you guys met.
Oh.
But
It was
we're
really just
bringing
me.
it
No, I know. I'm
together.
just saying, like, oddly enough, that I'm only thinking about how I met you guys and how you met me, not
Right.
how you met each other, because
Yeah.
it's not about me.
Well, right, no.
Right.
Yeah.
We just were friends with People on the Beer podcast, which is where I come from, and then that's how I met Beverly and Terrence, and then Taryn I met at a beer
Because
fest
of the podcast as well.
because of the podcast.
And
yeah.
we met Taryn through Jason. And
Yeah.
Jason and I worked together on that same.
So it's all about beer.
It's all
Awesome.
about
It's all
beer.
through beer.
It always is.
That's true. So that's the slightly less boring version than the actual version.
Yeah.
That's it.
That is it.
Okay, perfect. Let's get our favorite person on the phone here.
You can't say that because we have two different people on the phone tonight.
Yeah.
Let's get
Oh,
our
I also-
favorite person on the phone
Okay.
here.
Yes.
Are you all right?
You're calling.
Yeah, I was just going to give a shout out. I ran into a listener at my local Safeway, which was so funny and like surprising. I had no idea, but it was really cool. Her name was Shay, so just wanted to say hi, Shay.
Hi.
I remembered your name.
That's cool.
As we unravel the magic behind
Thank
some
you for
of
listening.
Disney's most beloved pieces of music. It's Spectro time. This magic night, a million stars will play beside us, cast a spell.
Of course, I haven't figured out how to do this at the same time, so we'll just bring him on and be really awkward about it. I'd rather listen to his theme song than the Google Hangout dial tone. Jeremy,
What's happening?
how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
So you saying there was
Hi.
a crackle?
Hey, I'm not the only one, okay?
Because everyone played it on their laptops, before the Johns, and I didn't hear a single crackle. Everyone told me it was fine.
Yeah, I actually don't hear it now that we're on Hangouts, but when I was on YouTube earlier, I could hear it. But it got better, actually, I think, once Taryn was working on it.
All right. Well, that's good to know. Good
That
job,
is
Taryn.
good to know.
I'm trying to fix the crap.
It's fixed.
I said good job. Oh, it is? I guess.
According to Jeremy.
All right. Anyway, how's it going, Jeremy? What
As
are we
long
going
as,
to talk?
as long as it's okay on your recorder, it'll be fine
Yeah.
for the YouTube, right?
Sure, man. What are we talking about today?
We are going to get out of Disneyland because I feel like I've been in Disneyland for a while. We're going to Florida. We're going to talk about the music of Epcot's Fountain of Nations.
Oh, I like me some Epcot, man.
Yeah, Epcot is great.
It really is. It really
And
is.
I have a lot of, if you follow me on any sort of social media, you know that I have a lot of passionate opinions about Epcot. So,
That doesn't shock me at all. You have passionate opinions about everything. Box
Yes.
wine, telephones.
which I'm drinking tonight. I'm back on the box wine bandwagon.
Oh, mazel.
Did you go out and get the ingredients for the secret show drink?
Sure.
Oh, man.
There was like the longest list of ingredients, and I didn't know what half of them were.
Spend like $60 on
Yeah.
you'll never drink again.
I don't know why.
This is not happening.
I don't know why Terrence is surprised. The kid drinks wine from a box.
Right.
Okay. Why?
It's not. I mean, come on.
What? Some boxed wine is actually
Try to
quite
class
good.
him up. Just try to class him up.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, Jeremy, go ahead.
I
and
went
let's
to the liquor store and asked for
Judgy.
box tequila, and they didn't have it. So I said I'm sticking with I tried to get Franzia tonight, but they didn't have it. So I'm on black box.
Oh,
Ooh.
there
Black
you
box
go.
is good.
It was quite nice.
Whatever. Okay, let's get in some music here, Jeremy.
All right. Did you play my intro already? I didn't hear it.
I did. I can play it again though. You want to
Okay,
hear
good.
it?
No, that's fine.
You're such a jerk.
Okay, continue, please.
So for those of you who have not been to Epcot, the Fountain of Nations is a large tiered oval-shaped fountain that sits between the Future World and World Showcase sections.
Jeremy,
of the
I'm
park.
sorry. I'm going to interrupt you. I was messing with you. You didn't hear me play.
Oh,
You didn't hear
damn.
me play over your voice, and so I basically played the music over what you were saying. So if you could please start over.
Sorry.
I won't mess with you.
Ay vey. Okay. Well, I actually think you might have heard what I said, but I'll start again. The Fountain of Nations is a large tiered oval-shaped fountain that sits between the Future World and World Showcase sections of the park, and I'm talking about Epcot, and has been there since opening day in 1982. On October 24th of that year, 25 bodies of water representing 29 nations were poured into the fountain during the international ceremony of the water's dedication. Card Walker, the then CEO of Walt Disney Productions, said in his dedication speech, quote, "Joining us around this magnificent fountain are representatives of nations from around the world. They have brought with them waters from the great oceans, the seas, the rivers, and the lakes of our planet, Spaceship Earth. These waters flow together as a symbol of the oneness of humankind and the hope for peace among nations, making this truly a fountain of world friendship." Which I think is nice.
That is nice.
So very similar to kind of the Small World opening where they poured in water from all over the
Yeah,
world.
they have a thing with shared water and bacteria. Do you think they were like scanned for bacteria? Or here's, you know, cholera.
Definitely not.
Undrinkable water from Africa.
What
Here you
country
go.
does this cholera water represent? I wonder.
Anything out of North America? No, I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. Please.
Wow.
Okay, so the fountain basically was there for 11 years. Didn't really do anything except, you know, do what a fountain does. Water came down. It was nice.
It was nice.
It wasn't
It was nice. Well, 1993 came along. 1993 was notable in the world of Disney for a few reasons. The first is that 1993 was the last and final year that Epcot Center was known as Epcot Center. In 1994, Epcot's name was changed to Epcot 94.
Why?
And then in 1995, they changed it to Epcot 95.
That's real dumb.
And then after that, they just kind of called it Epcot.
Why?
That's probably a good move.
Why would they do that?
Well, from what I understand, so by the way, my first trip was in 93 and they were like changing all the signage to 94. And back then I knew it was stupid. Like, why are they doing this? So stupid.
So you remember what year it is? Duh.
Well, so what they were, what I read, and I haven't confirmed this, but according to a couple places I saw this, is that they were gearing up for the millennium. And so it was kind of like a count up. So like
That's even worse.
Epcot 99, Epcot 2000.
But they started it at 93. That's terrible.
Yeah.
It's like the worst countdown ever.
Or they were just all hopped up on like Windows 95 and they just decided to go along with that.
That's a good point.
But there was something else going on in the year 1993 in the Disney World. And do any of you guys know what that might be?
Lion King?
I bet we're supposed to.
I think Lion King actually might have been that year.
I don't know.
This is a little obscure. Tokyo Disneyland celebrated its 10th anniversary in 1993.
That's a lot obscure. Yeah.
Well, this is important to our fountain story tonight because for this anniversary, they launched a new daytime castle stage show called It's Magical with its theme, Join In, number 1.
10 years of magic. Mickey deserves a hand.
I love every single second of that.
Well, good, and remember it.
I will forever.
Forever.
So the story for It's Magical is pretty standard Disney fare. It's in front of the castle. Everyone's happy. And the premise is kind of that they're celebrating color.
Okay.
They're happy that that color exists.
There's color in the world. I like fuchsia. I like orange. Let's sing a song about it.
Until, of course, someone bad shows up. In this case, Maleficent, to ruin their good time, and she takes their color away.
What
Number 2.
Be?
Here we go! Make a wish on a shooting star. Wish for magic and see where you are. Though it's hard to believe it could be, things that you see are just so unbelievably magical. Wonderful.
Orange!
Say goodbye to your precious colors.
That whole thing sounded more like Sesame Street.
Can you imagine if like you're an evil person, like an evil mastermind, and the thing you take away is everyone's colors?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to look good in pictures. Great. Thanks.
Well, it's kind of neat. The way they did it, I was watching the video, they have their costumes are all different colors, and they fold over themselves in such a way that when she takes away the color, they can quickly fold their costumes, and suddenly the color goes away, and they all look very monochromatic. So it was actually kind of neat how they designed them. Yeah. So that suddenly the color goes away. This is kind of cool. Although there's just no point in taking away color. I don't get it, but they did it well. So fine.
I can still breathe and watch TV. I love it.
Sorry?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mickey saves color by dispatching Maleficent. And he does this it's very similar to Phantasmic. So Maleficent turns into a dragon. This big mechanical dragon rises up. Mickey pulls out a sword, points it at her, fireworks shoot from it, and she folds back up and goes away. Number 3.
Here's my magical power.
I like that breakdown at the end. Mm-hmm. That was the best part.
So keep that music tattooed to your brain. You're going to need it.
All right.
Okay.
Back over in Orlando, they're gearing up for Epcot 94, and a new show was conceived for the Fountain of Nations requiring a major refurbishment. This refurbishment added a stage, 304 nozzles and water shooters that can send water 150 feet high in the air, and a coordinated water and light show.
Well, nozzle. Well, nozzle.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, nozzle. That was so good. This show would be called Splashtacular. Number 4.
Yes, it would.
Number 4.
Oh, God. Number 4. Sorry. Here we go.
All right.
And it's better than any bell. Join in, watching the fountain. Join in, stay for a while. Join in, enjoy the music. Gosh, this sure is some fountain, but we need to add a little more color to the scene. Pink, and yellow, and blue, and green.
Sounded familiar.
Sounded
I was
familiar.
going to say, sound familiar?
Yeah.
So this show basically lifts Tokyo's stage show almost in its entirety, with a notable exception in the middle, because Maleficent is no longer the villain at Epcot. That wouldn't make sense. These things have to make sense. Instead, a nefarious alien sorceress whose home planet has been robbed of its color comes to Epcot to steal their color.
Oh.
Are you with me?
No.
No. What were they smoking back then?
It kind of sounds like a Captain EO, John.
Yeah.
You know,
So
we are here to save the color.
Gonna save the color. Wow. Ridiculous.
So in order to ward off Mickey's future world guard and steal their color, because she can't do it herself,
No.
she creates an alien monster called the Terror Saw X, which is a large skeleton-like thing with a dinosaur head, exposed metal ribs, and the ability to shoot fireworks from its chest before it's ultimately tucked back away behind the bushes next to Interventions from whence it came. Take a listen,
Sounds
number
legit.
5.
Who are you? Why are you here? It's our galactic wars have robbed my planet of all color and so we are here to take yours. Say goodbye to your pretty colors.
Get over the whole color thing. Like, I mean, come on. I'm here to take your colors. Cool.
Well, I mean, I guess
There's more. Just take them.
Yeah.
I got a box. It's
Can
fine.
I keep purple? No? Okay.
I mean, I feel like, what else are they going to do? They need to have a villain. What are you going to do without, like, I'm going to steal your parents or all your food or your dog
I'm
or
gonna
something.
kill you. That'd be a little bit too dark for Disney.
Right.
I just love that the most devastating result imaginable from an intergalactic war that a country is left robbed of all of its color. It's like water, food, air, land. No, that's all fine. We just don't have any color.
Oy.
I also love the shout out, like, who are you? None of your business. They were like, well, we're not telling. We can't figure out a name. Like, just say none of your business.
There's no character
Everything we
development.
came up with was stupid, including this whole idea.
It's so
Your
great.
business.
Well, it doesn't take long for Mickey to, because the plot goes on, so it doesn't take long for Mickey to
good.
figure out that he must defeat this evil alien and our half dinosaur, half crane henchman, which she created. So, of course, he gets the job done, number 6.
There we go. That's my boy.
Quick, Minnie, give me the exterminator. Let's see how you like this. Minnie, over here, come on. Okay, you big poser. Now you really asked for it.
I like how this thing from another world wants to take everyone's color, so Mickey kills it. That's the answer. Not, hey, bro, go away.
Yeah.
Or here's an anti-color stealer device. No, you're going to die. Here's your exterminator, and
The
now you're dead.
exterminator.
Never steal my color, ever.
What was
Ever.
the exterminator exactly?
It wasn't a sword. I think it was like a wand, like some sort of like scepter.
Terrence
I don't
wants
know.
a
I would have thought that
Mechanics
if just from hearing you, what did she hand him? Like the Orkin Man?
That's actually literally exactly what I said.
No.
Like the Orkin Man.
Oh, okay. I didn't even hear it.
Oh, well, you don't listen when I talk. It's fine.
What?
Well, I know you'll be shocked by this, but Splashtacular didn't last very long.
Weird.
Okay.
Only a few months into Epcot 94, in fact. Epcot spokeswoman Pam Brandon said in a statement to the Orlando Sentinel that the theme of the Splashtacular is not appropriate for interventions. Big surprise. And Splashtacular was closed soon thereafter. But that's not where the story ends for the Fountain of Nations, because it was still equipped with a lot of new fountain technology. So it took 3 months to program 7 songs that would make up the fountain's water ballet that would perform randomly every 15 minutes. At night, the dancing waters are even illuminated by 1,068 colorful lights. Disney drew on several different resources for the song selections that make up the Fountain's water ballets. The first 3 pieces of audio came from the early 1990s Disney features, The Rocketeer, The Rescuers Down Under, and Iron Will. The music used from the Rescuers soundtrack is the end credits track and was composed by Bruce Broughton. Bruce Broughton, also famous to Disney fans for having composed the audio to the 2008 version of Spaceship Earth, as well as having adapted the theme for the updated Soarin' Around the World attraction. Number 7.
If his personal website isn't, it's already been Broughton. Oops. Sorry, I fat-fingered the escape key.
Remix.
But it was almost done anyway. Did we lose Jeremy?
Nah, it's fine now. It's totally right. I was having some headphone issues on this end anyway, so I switched them out. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Composer Joel McNeely provides us with our next track, the main theme from Disney's 1994 movie Iron Will. McNeely is also no stranger to Disney, having composed the soundtracks to Mulan 2, Return to Neverland, and also the Disneyland Paris 20th Anniversary Spectacular Disney Dreams, which you were listening to just before the show started. Oh. Here's McNeely's piece used in The Fountain, number 8.
I want him to come to the fountain and bend the McNeely.
What?
Game of Thrones reference. The knee, the kneel. Never mind. Stupid. That was a good piece. I like that. It was very nice.
We finish up the soundtracks portion of the pieces with James Horner's track, The Flying Circus from the movie The Rocketeer, number 9.
Oh, I love that movie. Me too.
I heard they're bringing the Rocketeer back.
Really?
Like for an animation thing, but with a female lead.
Yeah.
Huh.
And as a TV show, right?
Yeah, I think so. Like an animated John.
Interesting.
Well, so that finishes up the soundtracks pieces of the music, but for the next 2 pieces, Disney went New Age. Ooh. The first of these 2 New Age tracks is the inspiring piece Day One, written by New Age.
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, it's okay. We're on a weird delay, and so we need to remember that when we interrupt you.
Oh, sorry. The first of these 2 new tracks is the inspiring piece Day One, written by New Age instrumental composer and 80s TV personality John Tesh, number 10.
I love New Age music. It's so great.
So awful. I loved every second.
Perfect. You're going to hear some more. For the second of the 2 New Age tracks that make up the Fountain Show, we look no further than venerable New Age instrumental composer, Greek-born Yanni, and his track, Acroale Standing in Motion, from his highly acclaimed 1994 album, Yanni Live at the Acropolis. Now, this track is not only famous for having been on Yanni's quadruple platinum Acropolis album, but was also determined by the Royal Society of Medicine to have the Mozart effect, which is a set of research results indicating that listening to Mozart's music may induce a short-term improvement on the performance of certain kinds of mental tasks known as spatial temporal reasoning. So don't be surprised if, Jason, you're feeling even smarter after you hear number 11.
My spatial awareness is now highly tuned. You know, it's funny about you said the Mozart effect. You know, all those Baby Genius. Oddly enough, here's a Disney tie-in. You know that Baby Genius company? You heard about that? You hear me? Where it's like
Baby Einstein.
Baby Einstein. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Where it's that I've heard of. Where they say if you play certain Mozart pieces to your baby in utero, you like remap the neural pathways or whatever, and you make the kid smarter. It's based on that Mozart effect study that was done in Wisconsin, and it's total not true. Just to let everybody know. But Disney bought that company in 2001 for like $1 billion or whatever it was.
Oh, wow.
So Disney owns the Baby Genius and the little Einstein thing and all that kind of stuff, and it's like based on this study about college kids, and it doesn't like permanently change anything. It's just some of these kids could do a spatial awareness test for 15 minutes or so after listening to Mozart, and that's it.
But it doesn't have like any sort of long-term effects for like a baby.
Yeah. Just so you know, everyone relax. Go ahead, Jeremy, please. I'm a parental expert. I'm a parenting expert. I don't know if you know. I'm reading a book on it.
Well, that'll make you a genius right there.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Don't feed
The
into
next
that.
piece we're going to talk about is a track from a show that belonged to an Epcot show that never actually ended up being produced. The show was originally intended to be for the area near the fountains. Sadly, we don't know who the composer for this track was, but happily, though its original show never happened, it lives on for our enjoyment at the Fountain of Nations. This is Mickey's Finale, number 12.
That's a good finale.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Finally, for the last of the original 7 tracks that make up the Fountain Show, we have a track by the charismatic, the daring, the intellectual, well-bred, courteous, witty,
Well-bred
Svelte.
John Dabney.
John Dabney.
Well, thank goodness.
The track Air Battle was from a daytime show scored by Debney that took place over Epcot's World Showcase in 1991 called Surprise in the Skies, number 13.
All right, that was good. It sounded well-bred. That came from good stock.
And courteous. It's so nice to bring Debney back into the fold. It's been a little while.
It has been a while.
I was happy to see that he wrote that. So those were the original 7, but more recently Disney has added another song to the rotation called Celebrate the Future Hand in Hand. This piece served as the anthem to the resort's 2000 Millennium Celebration and was composed by Cheryl Berman and Ira and Tellis, number 14.
Hand in hand.
There's one more place to hear great music at Epcot's Fountain, and that was at the neighboring Fountain View Ice Cream Parlor, which is now a Starbucks, even though it's still called Fountain View.
I'm sorry, what?
Say it again?
The Fountain View.
Oh.
Right. Not to be confused. Although the coffee may have an effect. So the loop's gone, but the music for this loop drew heavily on 1980s new age music for you, Jason. Yes. From artists such as Checkfield, David Benoit, and Patrick O'Hearn. Take a listen, number 15. So that was To Be by Montreux, David Lanz and Paul Spears Behind the Waterfall, and Checkfield's Africa. But there's one artist with more tracks sampled in this loop than any other. And that is our dear friend, the revered, the respected, the venerable Yanni. Number 16.
Sounded like the beginning of that Revenge of the Nerds.
This is Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
Very good.
That Yanni.
So, Yanni, he's prolific and he's everywhere.
It's true.
The fountain's design is owing to a guy by the name of Mark Fuller, a civil engineer working for Disney in the 1980s, who later went on to start a company called Wet Design. If you aren't familiar with Wet Design's other work, look no further than the famous dazzling aquatic display in Las Vegas at the Fountains of Bellagio. And that is the music of the Fountain of Nations.
Very good, young man. Thank you very
That was
much,
awesome.
Jeremy.
And
Thank you. It was great. I had fun doing this one.
Can I tell you, I looked up John Debney for the first time. He's a good-looking
He's a
man.
handsome man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 You weren't lying.
Yeah.
He's svelte.
I didn't know what he looked like. I was just picking adjectives. And in another Spectro Time segment, I think you and Bev weren't on, and
The good old days.
the guys Googled him. And Terrence said he was not svelte, but Jason thought that he was.
Got it.
svelte.
There was a bit of a heated discussion about it.
Well, I'm not, I'm not hung up on that kind of stuff, man. I call it like I see it, but Terrence has I don't know where I'm going with that.
I think he's a decent looking guy, but for a 61-year-old guy, he's a
He
good looking
fine.
guy. Yeah.
He's fine.
Well, mazel to him, I say.
Yes.
Or nozzle. We've reached out to interview him, and what happened with that, Terrence?
It's
What's
funny
going on?
that you say that because when you said John Debney, I went back into my email and emailed his assistant again and said we need to talk. Especially since I
We
see
need
that
to talk.
he did the score for Little Giants and House Guest, starring Sinbad and
Oh my
wanna-
lord.
That's why we need to talk to him.
Let's not
yes.
bring him in. Let's not.
I feel like that might be the reason we don't talk to him.
Right.
Help
Yeah,
him.
and my favorite early 90s show, Sequest, DSV.
Nice.
God,
Oh my god.
get out of town.
You get
Which
better
was
and
filmed
better.
in part at Epcot, so there's a little hook in there.
Well, there you go. All right, Jeremy, we're going to let you go, and then we're going to get Kyle on here and talk to him before it gets too late for everybody.
Sounds good.
Thanks, my friend.
Bye,
All
Jeremy.
right, have a good night.
Bye, dude.
YouTuber.
Bye.
I always like those segments. They're a good time.
Yeah, he's really good at them too. I was thinking about it. I assume he writes them out, and he's such a better reader than I am. I was like, wow, he does such a good job. He doesn't skip over words.
Hey, we can't all be svelte and stunning or
That's
whatever
true.
it is. So before we get to Terrence's segment, because it is getting a little later, we're going. Wait, what? Invite? Yeah, let's go. Come on, I'm calling. There we go. We're gonna get Kyle on the line here, and we're gonna talk about Star Wars Land. What's going on with Star Wars Land? What's going on with Downtown Disney? How this is going to affect the parks, and all the kind of stuff that is implicated here. Because look, man, Disney is doing some things, and we're going to try to see if we can guess at what they're doing and how they're going to be treating guests. And is this going to be any sort of reduction in the in the guest or whatever? Kyle, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you doing, man?
Not bad. How are you doing?
Perfect. You have your video camera on. You can turn that off if you want. Hi.
Hi,
Yeah, that's
Kyle.
probably a good idea.
Yeah. I think it'll make the sound a little bit better. So thanks for joining us, man. Sorry we're getting to you a little bit later than I had originally told you, but I'm a liar.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
So
You always lie to me.
That's true. That's true. I do that. So we were chatting the other day online about Star Wars Land, and there's kind of a lot of talk about how the park is going to be dealing with Star Wars Land with regards to the patrons, the guests. Are they going to segment the people going into Star Wars Land? Is it going to be a whole different tier of Fast Pass? And you had some strong opinions on all of that, so I thought I'd get you on the phone here, and we could talk about it.
That sounds good to me. I mean, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I knew that you would say something like that. Well, let's start with the things that we've talked about in the studio here. We've heard a lot that people say that, Star Wars Land is going to be a crowd relief zone, so it will instantly make the park lighter in crowd because most of the people are going into Star Wars Land. But I think that that's incorrect, because if you have a wider footprint, that means you can let more people in to the park. And when is there ever going to be a low crowd day once that thing opens? Let's start there. What do you think?
Well, first off, I mean, Star Wars Land is all additional land. So because of that, it's definitely going to increase the park capacity, and it's going to increase the park capacity by a lot, because we're adding 2 attractions that are both sizable and a ton of walking space. That being said, though, like you said, the draw is massive. I mean, people are going to be coming from everywhere to go visit this park, and especially at first, before Disney World gets theirs open. And because of that, the demand is going to be so crazy that it probably is going to draw just as many guests as it can hold. So I think at the end, we're really going to see a wash. Like, maybe at first the parks will be a little bit busier, but I don't think it's going to be so blown out of proportion as people are making it sound, that Disney's going and adding all these extra experiences just to, quote-unquote, absorb crowds. And that's kind of my big stickler point on all this.
You think that that they're building these attractions just to absorb crowds?
No, I don't.
You don't.
I think
right.
that's wrong.
But that's what people are saying.
Yeah, and the thing is, people don't think about how business processes are done. I mean, people, Disney Parks plans out the resorts 15 years in advance. There's a 15-year plan for pretty much everything that goes into the park. And because of that, they take the time to do estimates and logistics to figure out how many guests they're going to get, what type of draw there's going to be. There's been studies that have been done even before they put in the Star Wars Land to determine what the draw of Star Wars Land would be. So they've been well set up this whole time to make sure that they have the capacity at the end of the day.
So 15 years ago, well, and we had talked about it a little bit before, but so the 15 years ago they were planning on a Star Wars Land. Some rumors were that it was going to be in Tomorrowland, and they kind of got a gut Autopia and all that kind of nonsense. But they knew that that would draw a lot of people. Do they also plan out price increases that far too, like to coincide with these things, or not?
Not that far, but I mean, they do plan those in advance. I mean, Disney looks at their logistics pretty much daily. Price increases come annually, I would say, but they definitely have been changing things in anticipation of Star Wars Land. But this thought that these prices are being gouged because of Star Wars Land is absolutely ridiculous. We might be seeing a little bit of that on the annual pass holder sign, but if you look at these price increases that were done this last year, we're looking at 2 to 3% increase, which is equivalent, and not talking about passes again, talking tickets, which is equivalent to the price increase that you'd see due to inflation. So saying that Disney's raising prices because of Star Wars Land is far-fetched. I mean, the value that's coming, that they're asking from you, is the same value they're asking from you a year before.
So then, what is your take on what they're doing to the annual passes, or why do you think they're doing that?
I think they're trying to decrease. So they have an issue right now, and that's that the parks are crowded, and they probably are more crowded than they actually want. And when I say that they're more crowded than they want, they're probably more crowded with people who don't spend a lot. They like guests that spend a lot, and because of that, earlier in the, I think it was a year or two ago, Disney dropped one of their mid-tier passes. And dropping a mid-tier pass suggests that they're looking at lower-tier passes and upper-tier passes exclusively and trying to get rid of annual pass holders because simply there's too many. Disney has become more and more affordable as the tickets go up. The passes have become more and more affordable. You have now monthly payment plans, which are still pretty new. And I think there's a lot more annual pass holders these days, and I think they got more than they actually asked for. So,
Okay.
I think
That
that's
makes
just
sense.
literally the response. I don't think it's Star Wars Land. Some people do, but if it was Star Wars Land, we'd be seeing things like single park days and stuff like that. And, some people have anticipated that you'll see California Adventure only days on annual passes, but I think that they'll avoid doing things like that because they'll complicate the annual pass holder program. And Disneyland doesn't want to complicate the annual pass holder program at all because it will basically lead to customer dissatisfaction. They don't like doing that.
Well, guess what?
They did.
Do you ever see a time when they would pull the annual pass program because it's not necessarily needed at this point? I mean, if the goal is to price people out of going to the park to a certain extent, then why have the annual pass program to begin with?
Personally, I think that the annual pass program is outdated. I mean, the fact that you're buying admission every day to the park when you don't necessarily are going, most people don't go every day is kind of ridiculous. I think an annual pass program should work more like baseball seats where you're guaranteed one or, tickets every month type thing. I would do ticket allocations over an annual pass program if I was Disney and they were trying to price people out. It's annual passes are weird, but seeing the pass tiers change and stuff like that is mainly just keeping track with even what Universal's done because of Hollywood and stuff like that.
What do you mean? Just the Harry Potter effect?
Yeah, the Harry Potter effect. I mean, and we're going to see that here with Star Wars too, but, and that's kind of probably why they've, upped the upper tier passes. But the big sign is parking. As long as parking's still available, they're still very receptive to the annual pass holder program, and they still like their pass holders. Once they remove parking, then you know that that the annual pass holder program isn't going to be there for too much longer.
Oh, really? That's the linchpin, huh?
I would say so. And I mean, you saw when the parks, right after the 50th, you saw the parks got a lot busier. And in my opinion, they've been pretty busy ever since the 50th. And at that time, they removed parking from a lot of the lower tier passes and as well as a payment option. And parking hasn't been really available ever since. It's benefits like that. See, they don't mind people buying passes because a lot of people buy passes and they don't end up going, which is great for them.
Yeah.
What they care about is people who buy passes and go all the time, and they want to try and, make annual pass holders not want to go as often at that point. And they're going to try and do that before they try and eliminate the program. And trying to get rid of that is eliminating things like prepaid parking and stuff like that.
Do you think,
Max Pass.
Do you think that they would eliminate the payment plan? Because, I mean, honestly, if they didn't have that, I wouldn't have ever had an annual pass.
Yeah,
Totally.
Me either.
That's a weird question, and that kind of comes down to affordability and what their target audience is. I think for now the payment plan is definitely here to stay. I would think they would actually get rid of tiers of passes before they get rid of payment plans again. So pricing wise, people who pay a lot for annual passes and people who pay a little for annual passes are usually the people who buy food in the park. They're usually the people who show up, stay a whole day, buy food in the park, or show up, have a nice dinner type thing. It's the middle tier passes that actually don't spend as much and come pretty often. Those are usually the people who are more conscious on their spending and stuff like that. So they'll probably get rid of those first, and then start to move away from things like monthly payment plans and stuff like that. If they were trying to get rid of the passes,
Yeah.
which I don't think they're doing.
You know that we read it on the last show, I think it was, the announcement that Ballast Point, or Constellation Brands, the Mexican beer and wine conglomerate, is opening a tap room in downtown Disney. And in that article, the president or CEO or whatever of Ballast Point Constellation Brands said that Disney told them that 50% of visitors to the park in any given day are locals. Does that ring true to you?
That number is probably much higher than that, honestly.
Really?
You got to define locals, but yeah. I mean, if not, that means that their tourism's picked up a lot since Cars Land opened, because I know that in 2011 or so, that number was much, much higher. Locals doesn't necessarily mean annual pass holders.
No.
You know?
No.
It means ticket to guests too.
Yeah, but I would imagine that if you're local in the Southern California region and you go often enough, you're going to have an annual pass. I mean,
let's say you live in the middle of the country, right? And you're going to pick a park to go to.
Yeah.
You're going to go to Disneyland or you're going to go to Disney World. They cost pretty much the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And airfare is the same and everything else. Why not go to the one with 4 instead of the one with 2? You know? And I think a lot of people think that way. And I think you get people even as far out or as close as Nevada thinking that way more often than not.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call them locals, though.
No, I wouldn't call them locals.
Yeah. No, I'm talking SoCal. You SoCal people. Because so it sounds like the Southern California people are ruining Disneyland for the entire world. That's what I'm realizing right now. Because if you're going all the time, I mean, everybody who always says like, "Oh, I've been 12 days in a row," is a Southern California resident.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say that's true. Honestly, I'd say that the park is mainly Southern California residents, and I bet if you yelled out how many people are from Southern California in a crowd at any point, most people would respond, "I am." You know, and if you look at how Disney, you know, you said you're going to post my article soon, but if you look at how Disney is actually upgrading these parks these days, you can tell it's actually more tiered towards locals. You know, they spend a lot more money on changing entertainment shows and temporary attractions these days than they do putting in brand new experiences. You know, you see things like the food festival that they're about to do, and things like the Mad Tea Party and stuff like that really are stuff that drive local crowds a lot more than they drive people from out of town. Nobody comes to the park from the Midwest to go see the Mad Tea Party.
I don't know. I think there's a few people online that would fight you over that. I mean, doesn't that seem counterintuitive, though? I mean, if you want to reduce the crowd flow, why not restrict how often people from Southern California can come? That way you don't end up ticking off the majority of your people, the majority of your fans.
Well, you're making an assumption. You're making an assumption that Disneyland isn't targeted towards locals. You know, Disneyland probably, I mean, a big part of Disneyland's guest crowd ever since day one has been locals. So, you know, Disney actually does target them. Often. Downtown Disney was targeted towards locals, not towards hotel guests. Look at the makeup of that. It's got a lot of things for local guests. I forget where I was going with that.
I mean, yeah, I am assuming that because I feel like why does Disneyland have to advertise? Why do they have to target anybody? I mean, I feel like they're one of the few destinations that you don't really need to, and everyone's going there anyway.
Well, you still need to advertise. I mean, they definitely draw people in with advertisements, and that includes locals. The SoCal Fun Pass is a great example of that. You get locals that don't normally go, and they end up spending just as much on admission as anyone else would for one park in one day, and they end up buying twice the amount of food, twice the amount of merchandise, and twice the amount of churros. You know, they make a lot of more money off of that.
Okay, well, whatever. Let's talk about downtown Disney and all the changes that are coming to downtown Disney. What do you think about? Well, I don't know. Maybe you already answered that, right? Because you just said that the draw there is not to get the out of towners. It's not hotel guests, but half the downtown Disney is going to be a hotel.
They're shifting it now. You know, they traditionally they were trying to get locals, but now they're actually going to really try and shift it to hotel desks because they're sticking a hotel right smack dab in the middle of it. Bullmore Lanes is something that's highly successful in Disney World, but at the same time, you're getting things like Ballast Point and Blackcrap, whatever the hell whatever that place is called, you know. But Downtown Disney is kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they have that new bowling alley.
Yeah.
I think you went there. I think you were the one who told me about it. And they have like $10 Sam Adams Boston Lagers.
Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
Dude, for real?
Yeah.
Don't. I'm going to tell you something, and don't go there. Just don't go there. There's no reason to go there. Walk in, walk around, say, I like this place. I'm sorry, it's Splitsville, not Baltimore. Someone just texted me to remind me. But walk around and just check it out, but buy your drinks somewhere else, because alcohol at California Adventure is cheaper than alcohol at Splitsville Lanes.
That's crazy to me.
That's insane. And it's what, $25 for like an hour or something like that, of bowling. And
I mean, the bowling alley is pretty cool. If you're there for bowling, enjoy it. I mean, there's like every single bowling area is divided into like 3 or 4 lanes only. So there's not a lot of people around you. It's probably pretty easy to throw a party there and like rent out a little area. But I mean, if you're not there to bowl, I don't see a reason to go there.
I'm looking at the menu right now. So Golden Road, their mango,
which is
mango
Budweiser.
Yeah, exactly.
Owned by Budweiser.
How much for a draft of that? How much do you think it would be?
$10.
$11.
$14.
Your mouth.
$14.
I bet it's a frosty mug
one
too.
Craft beer. One craft beer. Barley Forge's Patsy. That's it. I don't even understand it.
Oh, I was gonna say Firestone, but no, you're right. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, that's a whole show. That's a whole other show.
Yeah, that'll be
That's a
on the
whole other
secret show.
podcast.
We can talk about that later if you want during the late thing.
Yeah, if you want to come on the Secret Show,
The late thing.
we got some good news. So do you think Downtown Disney's shifting that hotel? That's going to blow the whole demographic wide open. I mean, do you think we'll be able to still stroll down in Downtown Disney? What I like about Downtown Disney is you can go out to Downtown Disney, still be in the Disney bubble, but not be in the park.
It's a break.
It's a break.
Yeah.
And do you think there's going to be a break anymore, or is it just going to be you're just in a crowd from the moment you're on campus?
Oh, no, I think it's definitely going to be a break still. I think you're going to be able to enjoy it and still do the things that you're used to doing. But you know, what's going on right now is a lot of these contracts for a lot of these restaurants are going up, and they're trying to change it. And pretty much everything on anything west of Disneyland Drive, it's going away. Rainforest Cafe, ESPN Zone, probably Earl of Sandwich even, and the AMC Theater. Those are all going with Downtown Disney when it goes. So you're not going to be able to stroll as far. But up to the hotel, you're definitely going to be able to stroll, I have a feeling. There's no reason not to.
I like going on a stroll. How are we going to get to Trader Sam's? That's the big question. That's the whole lead up.
You're just going to have to walk through the hotel. They'll probably let you do it.
Maybe.
Dude,
Probably. You're probably going to have to show an ID and, like, maybe a blood sample.
Right.
Yeah.
are you a guest here at the hotel? No? You got to walk all the way around there.
Yeah, you think it's going to be like
That's how it was for us the
for
other
California
time, dude.
Grand or whatever, Grand California.
But we were able to say we were going to a restaurant, so that's all we'd have to say,
Sure.
I guess.
That was after 12
Well, yeah.
times asking if we can go through.
And 110
If you're going to Trader Sam's, I'm sure you can say you're going to Trader Sam's and they'll let you through. I mean, they're not going to deny it. Unless they're like going to have so many people at Trader Sam's, they're not going to know what to do with them. They're not going to not let you to Trader Sam's.
That's right. Well, Kyle, look, I'm going to let you go real fast so we can get to Terrence, and then we can get out of here and we can do the secret show. But I appreciate you taking the time, man, and answering some questions that we had about the impact of Star Wars Land, and not even the impact, because everyone knows the impact, but how Disney is going to be dealing with crowds with that. It wasn't, I guess, really a complex question, but we had no idea.
Well, and
I'm going to say, I mean, like, all the things that they're doing right now is great. They're expanding things. They're giving people more room in Adventureland and stuff like that. It's going to be awesome when all these projects are done. It's stuff they should have been doing for years, and they probably had it planned, but they just never really had a reason to finally do it, and now they do.
Yeah,
so it's going to be great.
So you're pumped. You're pumped about it.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally pumped. Star Wars Land is going to be awesome. There's no doubt.
Yes, well, that's true. That's true.
It's massive. It's massive.
It is. All right, dude. We'll let you go, and I'll give you a ring a little bit later.
All right.
All right,
Talk to you
homie.
later.
All right, dude.
Bye.
Cool. Okay. Well, I feel a little bit better about it. I'll tell you that
Yeah.
right now.
I'm gonna miss ESPN Zone. I like that place a lot. But
Well, you would. All right, Terrence. Let's talk about the PeopleMover, please.
all right, man, we're going long. All right, picture it, Anaheim, 1954.
Wait.
No,
First of all, he says we're going along. It's a long show,
And then he
and
starts
it's
with
the most dramatic like. ever. You want a fainting couch too?
Oh, you got the vapors?
I
Spit
do
everywhere when I
declare.
said that.
The venerable Walt Disney envisions a theme park where the past will meet the future. The Old West will meet the deepest jungles of Africa, Asia, and South America, and a place where dreams can come true. Disneyland was truly a huge undertaking, and it was even more remarkable that it took 1 year and 1 day from groundbreaking to opening day to create this land. Now, everyone knows the opening day of Disneyland didn't go off without a hitch, but did you know that there was an entire portion of the park that was almost completely abandoned and then postponed and was slated to open well after the remainder of the park? Now, as the story goes, construction was so far behind on Tomorrowland that Walt decided in October of 1954 to suspend construction indefinitely. Some projects within the park earned the most attention while other areas kind of waned, and Tomorrowland was another. He was planning to simply open the park without Tomorrowland. He would give the remainder of the park time to earn the money back, and then he would really sink his teeth into the area of the park that he was trying to capture what things would be like in the distant year of 1986. Now, fortunately, or kind of unfortunately, the Imagineers and designers pressed forward with plans that did not truly didn't match Walt Disney's vision for the area. In fact, the land was little more than leased real estate to large corporations. So you had the Kaiser Aluminum Hall of Fame, the Dutch Boy Paint Color Gallery,
Which sounds amazing.
Right.
Come and look at paint samples.
Right. It's kind of crazy, right? You have the Monsanto Hall of Chemistry, which wasn't even an A-ticket attraction. It was a nothing attraction. You just walk in and do it and see how chemically made products benefit your life and how the world will be in 31 years, right? And then you had the Crane Bathroom of the Future. That was your Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
The crane.
It was sponsored by a
Crane
company called
Plumbing,
Crane.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
We talked about it once
It's just
early on
an
before you were-
elevated,
but
it's an elevated bathroom.
Yeah, but they had like gold.
I don't even want you to know like where my mind went there. It was very weird.
Yeah, so it was kind of it's strange. So 1959 came and there was an expansion of the area, brought in the Matterhorn, which is part of Tomorrowland at that point, as well as the monorail. The submarine voyage, the flying saucers, and other attractions would soon follow. Now, while these attractions, as well as a facelift to the area, were steps in the right direction, the area was still lacking something. It just wasn't futuristic enough, and Walt knew it, and he wasn't sure what to do. Well, in the early 1960s, the Imagineers began working on 4 separate attractions for the World's Fair that would take place in 1964 in Illinois. Walt viewed the fair as a place where he could try out new ideas and refine new technologies. He could obtain corporate funding to create new attractions, that'll come in later, and he could test the receptiveness of East Coast audiences to his most recent dream, a spacious new park in Florida. So first, they introduced the audio animatronic with Abraham Lincoln taking center stage in great moments with Mr. Lincoln. Next, they wowed guests with the inventions of man and the Carousel of Progress. Guests were amazed at all the figures and It's a Small World. Great song, by the way. But there was one more attraction that would change the way that Disneyland attractions operated. Now, Henry Ford II and Disney Imagineers would work together to create the largest exhibit at the fair, over 273,000 square feet for this one exhibit.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was also the most popular exhibit at the entire World's Fair. Now, Henry Ford II and the Disney Imagineers were the ones working on this. Walt was busy working on the Carousel of Progress, and they worked to create an attraction that, as Ford put it, would show off the luxury of Ford vehicles. Sounds super boring to me. Well,
when you have the bathroom of the future to compare with, it sounds pretty like in line with whatever's going on.
No, I know, but think about it. So you have It's a Small World. You have the Carousel of Progress. Yes, great song, by the way. Carousel of Progress. You have great, the Abraham Lincoln thing, and then you're looking at cars. So the Imagineers are like, exactly, like that's not going to work. So what they decided to do is take this as a challenge to figure out how they're going to do this. So first, Henry Ford was adamant that they had to use real Ford vehicles, and they didn't know how they were going to do that. Also, there needed to be enough vehicles on the track at any given time that you could never see the same model at the same time on the track. If you were either in a vehicle or waiting in line, they didn't want you to see the same model at all. Third thing is they had to keep it cheap. Now go build what we want. So I've never heard of Imagineering coming in under budget. Never on anything, right?
Right.
But they're adamant that it had to be cheap. So Imagineers, like normal, completely acted like they didn't hear that, and they went out. Because I mean, think about that. These they made a snow-covered mountain in L.A.
Yeah.
They're not worried about price. Just make it good. So the first idea was they're going to use a bumper brake system that would bring the car into the queue, stop it, allow people to load, and then it would continue on its way. But they realized that was terrible for a ride that's supposed to be a high-capacity ride. Secondly, the Ford company didn't have enough models at that time to not have a single matching car in the queue. So what they did was they asked Ford if they could use more of one of the vehicles they wanted to showcase, which was the 1964.5 Ford Mustang. So there's 178 ride vehicles in total, and of the 178 ride vehicles, they had about 60 to 70 of these Mustangs, the first Mustang ever. And people loved that car so much that people would actually wait in line and let people go in front of them just so that they could take this attraction in a Mustang, which made the wait times up to 3 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah. So the ride itself was ingenious. The cars and passengers would match speeds. Think, Haunted Mansion. With a moving walkway, the cars would be propelled by a track chain with individually turning wheels every 3 feet. The ride would take you through time with Walt Disney himself as your guide. The trip began at the age of the dinosaurs, including scenes of sauropods, Triceratops family, and the clash between a Stegosaurus and a Tyrannosaurus. You would then transition into the age of man with a caveman greeting the rising sun. You would see another caveman hunting a mammoth. You would see the first ancient artist, the creation of fire, things like that. And then you come back to the queue. And the attraction was a hit. Everyone loved it. But it was way, way over budget. Way over budget. Now, Walt Disney also was hoping that this would get the Ford company to strike a long-term deal to bring this attraction into the park. But Henry Ford II was not willing to do that. Even though Walt was able to secure sponsors for every other attraction, this one he couldn't. The other thing is that Walt wanted to license or lease his image to Henry Ford for this ride and basically have it Walt Disney present the Ford Magic Skyway. Ford wasn't having that either. Ford was very upset it came in over budget, and he actually said in front of other people as it opened, "I hope you love it because it costs way more than we expected to build it."
Well, hey.
So there was a lot of tension already. Henry Ford also saw that this technology and where Walt was heading with it was a direct opponent to the automobile. So the fair ended. 3 of the 4 attractions immediately found a home in Disneyland. Also, some of the animals from the Magic Skyway found homes in the park. The dinosaurs are part of the diorama for the railroad, and the mammoth was deferred and placed in the Jungle Cruise at the back of the elephant bathing pool. But now the Imagineers are thinking, what do we do with this amazing technology? Well, they made a new Tomorrowland in 1959, but now the new Tomorrowland was starting to look like Yesterdayland. The area was really becoming a project for Walt. He wanted to make sure that it was something that people would love. So he decided it was time for a new Tomorrowland. So Walt never got to see the completion of this area. And when I say this, they completely destroyed Tomorrowland.
Mm-hmm.
They tore it down from the hub all the way back to Carousel of Progress, completely torn down.
Wow.
Started building new show buildings. And then there was this strange elevated track up there as well that people didn't know what was going on. So when they were complete, if you look in, you can see the rocket jets along the a 3rd-story pedestal back in the center of the land, right by the Carousel Theater. The old Flight to the Moon Theater was now gone. It was Mission to Mars. But what in the world are those elevated tracks for? Well, on July 2nd, 1967, people found out. Walt decided that he would take the genius concept from the World's Fair and incorporate it as a mobility of the future in Tomorrowland. Disney had been able to secure a corporate sponsor for the Wedway PeopleMover, as it would be called. Goodyear supplied genuine Goodyear tires and plenty of money to the project. Walt imagined that this was done with the Magic Skyway. His idea was what he was doing with the Magic Skyway was what he was going to incorporate in the place he wanted to build in Florida called Epcot. Not the theme park, but Epcot, the experimental prototype community of tomorrow,
Right.
where all of the transportation on the top level, on the ground level, would be this basically automated transportation with everyone that's driving a vehicle would be underneath in tunnels. So this is what he wanted to do. He created in here, it was going to give a grand tour of Tomorrowland and test out whether this technology was actually feasible in the real world. And in all, the ride would take you around Tomorrowland in 16 minutes. So gliding high above the streets of Tomorrowland was the PeopleMover. Its support beams held one of the most valuable things in this area, shade. Think about it. There was not any shade in this area up to this point, right?
It sounds like Epcot. There's no shade
Yeah.
in
There's
Epcot,
no
man.
Totally.
So it was amazing. People found shade, but you could also ride this ride. So aboard the attraction, the guests would stand on a moving ramp that carried them up to the second level underneath the rocket jet's platform. You would then step onto a continuously moving platform that would match you to the vehicles moving at 1.5 miles an hour. Once on board, the doors of the PeopleMover would slide shut and the tilting roof would close and your ride began. After leaving the station, you would speed up to a whopping 7 miles an hour, and you would glide down the track at the center of the land. Now, just sit back and let these 517 individually driven tires take you through the 3/4 of a mile track, which is crazy to me because I thought it was way longer than that. It's not even a mile track. You would first enter the show building for a venture through inner space and look down at the guests entering the mighty microscope. By 86, this was Star Tours. After exiting the show building, you would get a great view of the Tomorrowland stage. In 1976, on January 5th, it closed and reopened a little bit over a year later, and now you were rerouted into a new ride called Space Mountain, and you would get a glimpse of the ride's tracks and hear some of the screams of its passengers. After exiting the mountain, you would then get a glimpse of Walt's Epcot, the model that he had of what Epcot would look like.
Model.
The model. You would then glide over the Skyway Bucket, speed across Autopia, travel over the Submarine Lagoon, and you would then enter the Circle Vision Theater and get a great view of the waiting area before returning to the queue. So, yeah, that was a ride. I mean, they added a super speed tunnel, and they had projected images of race cars, and then in the 80s, it turned into Adventure Through the Land of Tron, but basically that was it. That was the ride. It was just a slow ride taking you through the area. So the ride was actually fairly popular, but by the mid-'80s and early '90s, it was no longer a prototype. People were using this in other parts of the country. And honestly, the ride itself wasn't the problem. I think the problem was that no one was really paying attention to Tomorrowland anymore. So Space Mountain was there, but everything else was kind of stale. The submarines were gone for 10-plus years at this point. The Carousel Theater had been empty for 10 years. Captain EO was getting old, and it was replaced, and everything just felt outdated.
Hold on. Let's chill out.
Blasphemy.
It is what it is. I have to cutting stuff out. So also one of the problems that the PeopleMover was one of the deadlier attractions as well. So sorry, kids. In '67, a 17-year-old boy was killed when he was trying to jump between cars. Now,
Okay, well, that's his own fault.
yes, I know, but he was jumping between cars, got caught, and was drugged for several hundred
Oh,
feet
dear.
before a ride operator could cut it down. It reminds me of what is National Lampoons when Chevy ties a dog to the bumper on accident,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. Because you don't think the 7 miles an hour is very fast until you're trying to keep up with something going 7 miles an hour, right?
Right.
So that's
Right.
one of the problems. 72, a girl got run over because her ears fell off and she jumped out and got hit by another car.
Yet again.
In 1980, another guy was trying to move in between, jump between cars and got killed. So it was
Who does
deadly.
that?
People
Who
who
does
don't
that?
realize how fast 7 miles an hour actually
Also,
is.
Maybe they should have invested in a good restraint system.
Not even that, like, who just, I'm on a ride. I don't care if it's 2 miles an hour. I don't care if you can crawl faster than that.
Right.
Who stands up in a ride to go into another car?
Well, some of these things were on like grad night. So you have idiot teenagers who are like, oh, there's a cute girl. I'm going to try to jump in there and holler at her. And then you're just hollering until you.
People like to show off.
Yeah. So on August 21st, 1995, even though it was a very high capacity ride, the PeopleMover closed. And the track stayed empty for 3 years. Now, Michael Eisner realized that Tomorrowland was in need of another facelift, but he wasn't interested in spending a lot of money. So let's just paint everything bronze.
Oh yeah, that was a good choice.
Our favorite time.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So the new Tomorrowland opened in 1998 and had a new attraction on the old PeopleMover tracks, the rocket rods. Now, to enter this ride, just find the queue right as you enter the land. Enjoy the pre-show on the 9 TVs showcasing some of the more whimsical ideas as to the evolution of transportation. The Tomorrowland Central Terminal, that's where you are, will eventually connect with local areas like the Convention Center and Angel Stadium. That's what they would say on the TVs. These things are going to go out of the park and can connect with other things eventually.
Really?
But for now, just enjoy a fast ride around Tomorrowland. Right. So
when they already had the monorail.
Well, they already had the
they
monorail.
could connect to other things.
Exactly. They were dreaming. So you remember it took 16 minutes on the original ride to make it all the way around Tomorrowland, and it was a high capacity ride because it was constantly moving. Well, with this one, you're going to get up to your stationary car that pulls up to meet you. It's not high capacity anymore because it has a weird 1-1-1-2 seating arrangement. This is a rocket rod. So one person in the front, and the person behind them, 2 people in the back.
Okay.
So you went from like 8 or 9 people per car down to 5. And now you're going to buckle up. So you look forward and you realize that you're about to be in a drag race. You hear your high-pitched engine, it's an onboard computer making the noise. You hear it rev up and you wait for the light to go from red to yellow to green. The fake tires squeal and you're off. You even pop a wheelie at first. So when it first opened, you would pop a wheelie at that point and you would take off. Now you realize that you're going about 35 miles an hour right now, but you're heading straight at the Astro Orbiter.
That actually sounds terrifying.
Right? So you're speeding towards this thing. Now, this is Disneyland. So what's going to happen is you're going to speed as fast as you can, make a crazy turn to the left, and go into the Star Tours building. But why are we stopping? Because you're slowing down at this point. So you almost get to the Astro Orbiter, and you hit the brakes, and you make a slow left-hand turn and kind of speed up a little bit and go into the Star Tours building. And every time you have a straightaway on this entire ride, you would slow down at the end of it, almost to a crawl, and go into another building. Because Michael Eisner was adamant that he didn't want to put money into this. Now, at this time, Disneyland Paris was still Euro Disney at this time was hemorrhaging money. He wasn't going to invest in parks. And so they said, you know what? If you want this ride to happen, you have to find a sponsor to help pay for this. And they couldn't find a sponsor. So because of that, you have these heavy vehicles constantly braking and accelerating on these old tracks, and things didn't go well. So a month after the ride opened, it closed for some minor repairs. It was slated to open a month later. It was closed for 3 months. Now, it was constantly broken down, and the low capacity made the lines at least 2 hours all the time. So on September 20th, now if you're keeping score, this is a little bit after 2 years after it opens. On September 25th, 2000, the rocket rods were closed, and a sign was posted that said that an extensive refurbishment would have the attraction reopened by spring 2001. And on April 28th, 2001, the park's president, Cynthia Harris, admitted to the New York Times that it would never reopen. The track was starting to buckle.
Ew.
It was literally breaking the tracks. Now, I've asked what they could do. This is how it could return. People say you remake Tomorrowland into a retro future like they did originally. You make Autopia into electric vehicles. You do something maybe with a trackless vehicle with Autopia. Do something so that a PeopleMover ride in the park actually makes sense. Yeah, it's never going to reopen. You'll never, ever see this back.
It seems like OSHA would never let it.
And that's one of the problems. So one problem is that you have to, for ADA, you have to have access at certain points along the track to be able to help people. And it was grandfathered in originally. It was grandfathered into that because it was open for so long.
Sure.
But now it's been closed for so long, you can't grandfather it in anymore. You'd have to completely change the tracks in order to make it OSHA, so ADA and OSHA. You'd have to completely change the tracks. The other thing is, and I mean this, Michael Eisner killed this ride. The fact that he was not willing to put money in meant that they couldn't do what they were trying to do. At this time, Walt Disney World had a test track, and they were trying to do that. So think basically what we have with Radiator Spring, with Ridgeway Racers. This is the same kind of thing. You're welcome. Same kind of thing where you have you're coming full speed, but you have banked tracks. Now, if you have no money to put into this, you're trying to run something at 35 miles an hour, and you don't have banked tracks, so it's going to break hard. And they were literally seeing the tracks begin to buckle.
Why not slow the ride down then?
Because they were trying to get another e-ticket ride, something in there that wasn't just going to be another slow ride.
They were trying to tick too many boxes with this ride.
Basically, I agree with you. Basically, that's what they're trying to do. So you're never going to see it. You're never going to see it come back. Also, you'll never see the tracks removed. You'll never see the tracks removed. When they rebuilt Tomorrowland at that time, they literally built the tracks into the buildings. And a lot of portions of the tracks are actually support for the buildings. Another problem they had is that they congested all of the traffic into Tomorrowland. Think about it now. You have the big rock formation right there when you walk in.
Yeah.
You have the Astro Orbiter immediately when you walk in. The only way in is to the right. Most people completely missed the queue. The queue for rocket rods was immediately to the left. It's where Buzz Lightyear is now, but it was further into the line. So they completely screwed this up. They destroyed the tracks. You can't even do anything. The tracks aren't even fit to support anything anymore. So the history of the People Mover is just that. It'll always be the history of the People Mover.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and I'm torn. I mean, I love the ride, but it'll never come back.
Go to Disney World and ride that ride.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's not amazing, but it's one of those chill rides that it's like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I shouldn't say that. It's an insult to
It's a little bit
People
better.
Mover. It's better than Winnie the Pooh, but it's like Winnie the Pooh in that there's never, at least when we went, there's never anybody waiting. You literally walk right on, and you can kind of hang out and you check the park out, which I guess it's not like Winnie the Pooh, but it's like the train, I guess. How about that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. I
think
really
we
enjoyed
went
it.
Yeah, we were able to do it twice in a row because there's no line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd rather see them invest the money that they put into Guardians of the Galaxy overlay and the Frozen musical, and do the People Mover again, even though that wouldn't even nearly pay for it.
You'd have to literally close Tomorrowland to do that because
Man,
of the.
who can we? Here's what you need to do. I'm gonna text my boy Elon. Get Tesla to sponsor that, to redo it, to put it throughout the park, and you're just riding in little Tesla Roadsters. Yeah.
You wish.
I
think
do.
Trackless technology for the People Mover would be fun too. I think it would be a little bit scary to be
that would be
high up.
terrifying.
And that's kind of the point. That would be a draw for people.
But you could get Tesla then.
Yeah.
To do it.
I'll tweet him. Good job, Terrence. Let's do some news real fast and let's get out of here. We're running a little late, but I don't know. There's a few important things I wanted to talk about. One is Disneyland will replace the popular Ariel's Grotto and Cove Bar with a new water view lounge. Now, I'm not entirely sure how it's going to happen, but this was from the 22nd. They announced on the 22nd that it will replace the now closed Cove Bar and Ariel's Grotto. They were closed as part, I think, that picked Pixar
For the
Pier
Pixar
revamp
Pier,
or whatever.
yeah, it's closed. But I just thought they were revamping the Cove Bar. I didn't know that they
Me
were going
too.
to turn it into something completely different.
Yeah, I don't understand why. It's called the Lamplight Lounge.
It sounds cool.
Great. Sounds very Pixar. You know, when I think Pixar, I think Lamplight.
Oh, right, because of the eye. The lamp jumps on the eye.
Yeah, he has a
of the
name,
Pixar.
though. But, like, why not call it by its name?
Oh.
Lampy or whatever the hell his name is. The new family lounge will occupy both stories of the original two-story building, which formerly housed Ariel's Grotto. Disney fans and observers have been speculating for some time that the new venue would combine both Ariel's Grotto and Cove Bar into one new spot. The Disney blog said that the new lounge will open on June 23rd. along with the rest of the Pixar renovation at Disney California Adventure. That also includes rethemed attractions divided into 4 new districts highlighting Pixar movies. Here's where it gets stupid. This is a quote from the Disney blog. Lamplight Lounge will serve California casual gastropub cuisine
Your
that
favorite.
that is playfully presented, along with unique signature cocktails. There's nothing that I hate more than
The word
the
gastropub.
word gastropub.
I knew it.
First of all, gastropub in and of itself is stupid because it means like it means like fancy pub fare.
It means expensive.
Yeah.
It's like the word bistro.
But to put the word casual in front of it, what?
It makes no sense.
It literally makes no sense. There's no such thing as casual gastropub. First of all,
Contradiction.
nobody in California anymore. We've realized that we've gone through the phase of gastropub. That is nothing is called a gastropub anymore. If it's called a gastropub, it was opened at least 5 years ago. Nobody cares. That's not a thing. It's so irrelevant. But this sentence makes it sound like we have a some sort of like community of like-minded gastropub people who this is what we're known for. We're known for California casual gastropub cuisine, and that's not even a thing, and it makes me mad.
I'm just envisioning their menu to be like expensive burgers with avocado on them.
Oh, for sure, yeah, deconstructed things will be. I guarantee you, things will be deconstructed.
Oh gosh, you are so heated right now.
I am.
Also, foam.
Yeah, foam. Oh my God! If something gets served with these, deconstructed fish and chips,
Throw it
where
on
it's just
face.
cod and then fried flour. There you go. I don't know.
Or everything will
Actually
just be
sounds
piled on
delicious.
top of its.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, dude. Whatever. It's fine. At night, outdoor seating provides views of the illuminated Pixar Pier and World of Color, and apparently it will be keeping the lobster nachos, which is Terrence's favorite food in the history
Delicious.
of the world. The new lounge will feature the creativity, inspirations, and personalities of the artists and storytellers who have brought Pixar stories to life, according to the blog spot, by decorating with concept art, napkins, sketches, and collectible toys. That's cool, but nobody cares about the personalities of the artists. Like, no one cares about that. Nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about it. But I like the concept art and the toy stuff there. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
There you go.
I don't know. Hopefully it'll just draw people away from a Carthay. That'd be cool.
That'd be cool, but I don't see it happening. We don't like to talk a whole lot about rumors here, but this is a good rumor that Kyle kind of alluded to. This is from WDW News today, and of course it goes with the Disneyland Resort raising ticket prices, the annual pass price by 18%.
That's so rude.
Which, yeah, so I guess we've been kind of dancing around the whole time. I don't know. I hate it. It's priced Taryn and I out of our annual passes. So now we have not renewed. We are officially passless.
And I take it very personally.
Yeah, they've priced.
I'm like actually really upset.
Me too.
I actually had a hard time wanting to do this show tonight
Yeah,
because
me too.
We're now promoting a thing that I'm really upset with.
I'm upset with them. We can't afford the annual pass, which we really we hemmed and hawed already at the price. We balked at the price.
Yeah.
We probably weren't going to renew this year anyway because of the kid. We're not going to be going at all really this year probably. But we were thinking about it next year.
Well, yeah, and I was planning on trying to convince you that it would make sense because the kid's free, and now I don't have a leg to stand on. 18% is, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's at that point it's too much. It's too much for me to do it, and I guess I just don't understand why. I still don't understand why. I mean, after talking to Kyle, sorry, but
That's okay.
after talking to Kyle, I guess it makes a little more sense that they are trying to they're trying to price out the middle, which is us, which is that deluxe pass. We're the middle people. They're trying to price us out, man.
Yeah, but we didn't get raised the most.
Yeah, we did.
I thought the other one went up by 1,000.
No.
Am I exaggerating? Am I?
Yeah,
I would think you'd be. I think you're
I
exaggerating.
think you're dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I am.
Dreaming and drinking.
Or maybe it went up to 1,000.
Maybe.
I think that's my
possible.
Anyway, that's not my point. That's not what I was gonna say.
It's a good thing you made it.
Yeah, I know. I'm smart. I feel like it's now priced more than it's valued. Like I'm not willing to pay. I don't get enough out of it to pay that much.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. And what I don't understand is they have a habit of making these price increases when there's tons of
When
things
the
closed.
whole park is closed.
Pixar Pier closed. That's closed. Cove Bar closed.
Main Street is a disaster.
Yeah, you were just there recently. Anyway. That makes no sense. And to be honest, after this whole thing kind of hit the fan, I was like, I kind of wish we didn't have a Disney pod. Like I was really depressed about it. Not really depressed.
Well, because
I
now
was
we have
more
a podcast
angry.
about a thing we don't go to.
We can't afford
do.
a go-to. We can't
You
afford
guys should
it.
really go enjoy this thing that we can't do.
Yeah.
It's weird. It feels awkward. Like
A little bit.
Should we start a GoFundMe?
Oh, God.
I feel like we're in like a fight with like a family member, and like I don't really know how to reconcile it.
Yeah, you should go to Thanksgiving, but I ain't going to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
So and so's there.
I think it'll be fine, but honestly, I was like, let's do a Knott's Berry Farm podcast. Because but this was me just working through my trauma, right?
Because said we should do a Wally World podcast.
I just 18%. While ultimately it's not that much, it is that much. It has priced us out, and that's what I don't like. I feel like we've been doing the show for over 4 years. You'd think that we wouldn't get priced out of the thing that we are talking about and enjoy. We really enjoy Disneyland. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We're not going to change the show. We'll still do it. We'll still get over it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
But it just kind of stinks.
Yeah.
It kind of stinks, and I know there are a lot of other people who feel the same way. Maybe we'll get to go once a year now instead of 3 or 4 times a year, and that's what I don't. That's what I don't understand. It's like what Kyle was saying. Well, the people in the mid tier don't spend. We spend a ton of money.
Yeah,
when we go there.
Carthay cost me like $300 every trip.
Yeah.
We spend a ton of money there, but now the amount of money that we would spend on our passes, we can go maybe twice a year.
I'm going to do a timestamp for this so that we can come back to this in like 8 months when you
Hey,
guys have passes.
if we get
No.
raises, yeah, but right now we can't afford
Literally,
it.
like this is different than the last time. Like this is $200 more a year for us. We're not doing it.
Not right now.
Can't.
We can't.
I mean, I literally just can't. Like that's too much.
Yeah.
I the value unfortunately is and that's why I'm so upset about it, because I didn't think that they could price me out, and they won. And I feel betrayed.
I do too. And look, Star Wars Land will be great. That'll be cool. But I didn't even want to go for the first year anyway because it's going to be crazy. It's going to be insane. There's nothing at Disneyland that's going to make me go. I've seen it all.
Yeah.
And I kind of just maybe we're ready for a break until our professional lives progress a little more. We can afford it again. But right now, I feel like a lot of other families in the country
But then
where
at
we
the
can't
same
afford
time, Is it worth what they're trying to charge? How, like,
don't know.
I feel like they've
Yeah.
hit that ceiling where can they really charge more? Like, are they providing that much value?
it. I don't know. It's case by case basis.
And I just looked back. My first annual pass was in 2013. It was $499 a
Yeah,
year.
those are good days.
Now it is $729.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost said something very
In
inappropriate.
5 years.
Anyway, I wanted to bring it up just to let everybody know that we're thinking about it. We're just as frustrated as you guys probably are. I mean, some of you have written in, and we've talked to you about it. It is annoying. It's frustrating.
It's sad. It's upsetting.
Yeah. But especially because it makes you. I mean, and then they announce that they're going to spend $2 billion to refurb Disney Paris. It's like, well, that's where all right, there you go. That's where your $200 a year is going.
Yeah. Well, and
You can afford to go to Disney Paris.
they also raised
It'd
it.
be cheaper to go to Disney Paris for both of us and come back, tickets included and
Tickets
airfare and
included.
everything, than annual passes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and
I made that up. I don't know.
well, yeah. But part of what I think upsets me also is that they raised it 18%, and then we all know they're going to raise it again before Star Wars Land opens.
Oh, for
I mean,
sure.
maybe twice. Who knows? They can do whatever they want.
They typically do 1 or 2 price raises a year.
yeah.
It's just this is the way it goes. Anyway, so this report, these are rumors about how they're going to maybe possibly revamp the annual pass. to deal with all this thing. First, they're saying the rumor of a revamp of the blockout calendar. A similar concept is being introduced in Tokyo Disneyland in an effort to provide some surely needed relief during the debut, of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. There will be days in 2019 that pass holders will be blocked out of Disneyland Park but can still enter DCA. These additional Disneyland-only blockout dates will be the majority of the changes on the calendar. In addition, there will also be an expanded number of days that AP holders will be blocked out of both Disneyland and DCA. So they raise your, and this is a rumor, but if it's true, they raise your prices and then they take days away from you. I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
The second rumor is the possibility that Disney will be blocking out access to Star Wars Land, because I hate the new name, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, to Deluxe and SoCal pass holders for the entire first summer of operation, which I didn't care about. Because
I'm
it's
not even trying to go near that
No.
place.
No.
Nah.
No. It's expected that Signature Plus, and Premier Pass holders will be able to gain access to the land during the first summer. Furthermore, to go along with the rumor changes, the attractions inside Star Wars Land will be Max Pass exclusive attractions. They will not have a traditional Fast Pass option. This would mean that annual pass holders who are actually able to access the land may have to add Max Pass to their annual pass or else be relegated to the standby queue for attractions.
Disney is literally creating a caste system for their rides.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, taking things away.
But it's not like they didn't have a caste system before. That's why they have the A through E tickets. It's been like that before.
But not to get into a land, not to get into a part of the park.
I know. I don't, like I said before, I don't think that we're going to fill this, not just because of the not pass thing. I don't want to be in Disneyland for the first 2 years that Star Wars Land is open.
I want
Well,
to
yeah.
talk about this on
That's
the
right.
secret show so I can swear.
No, we're going to. Don't worry about it. From what we have been told, the park-specific blockout calendar is very likely going to happen. So, I don't know. That's rumors. And then here's a feel-good story. It's from the New York Times. Y'all can find it and read it. Apparently, there's a lot of people at Disneyland who live in their cars because the Disneyland doesn't pay them enough.
Really?
Yeah. So apparently, let me
Jeez.
see.
When do we get to the feel good part?
Hey, we said this was gonna not be the happiest show.
The cost of living is a particular challenge in Orange County, where a single adult would need to make about $33,000 a year to meet a basic monthly budget. A Sacramento think tank called the California Budget and Policy Center says roughly 38% of the county's 1.5 million workers earn less than that. About 85% of the 17,000 Disneyland employees who are part of a union make less than $15 an hour. Current minimum wage in California is $10.50, and it's supposed to reach $15 by 2022. California now has the highest rate of poverty in the country, 20.6%, when accounting for taxes, household, and medical costs. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. According to a survey of thousands of low-wage employees at Disneyland, nearly 3/4 of workers who responded said they do not earn enough money to pay for their basic monthly expenses, and 1 in 10 said they had been homeless in the past 2 years.
Wow.
The survey and analysis were conducted by Occidental College and the Economic Roundtable, a group that has long supported raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Blah, blah, blah. The survey was sent to about 17,000 workers in the park who are represented by labor unions. So
What are they doing?
What are the unions doing, right?
Not what they're supposed to.
And was completed by about 30% of them. So of the 17,000 workers who were surveyed, 30% did the survey, including both full-time and part-time employees. The responses account for about 17% of the park's overall workforce. A spokeswoman for Disney said that the survey was, quote, inaccurate and unscientific
Of course it was.
and produced by politically motivated labor unions. This is still a quote. The results are deliberately distorted and do not reflect how the overwhelming majority of our 30,000 cast members feel about the company. Well, yeah, overwhelming majority. This is 17% of the people. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Spokeswoman Lisa Haynes said in a statement, she added that most employees make above minimum wage. Yes, again, most do. 17% can't afford to feed themselves.
Right.
With entry-level roles between 11 and 17.75 an hour. We're proud of our record as a quality employer, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a couple stories about some people who they literally sleep in the car at night and then they go to like a Starbucks in the morning and brush their teeth and get to work early so that maybe they can take a shower and that's it. And, you know, they're young people, they're kids, they're whatever.
That sucks. That sucks.
Yeah.
This gal, Miss Bertola, she slept for months on a relative's couch, more than an hour away from the park. She began looking for a place of her own, but she could not find even a room she could afford, she said. So night after night, she rolled up her windows and slept in the employee parking lot. A couple of times, the security officer approached her saying, "Get it together and leave." This went on for 2 months. Anyway, there was another like thing that I wanted to do.
Well, and I bet that these people want to work for Disney. Otherwise,
Yes.
they'd go somewhere else. And that's the worst part is like they actually like they want to work there and they're just getting
And
kinda
that's-
smashed.
And that's part of the story, and I recommend you guys check it out. And because they're tied to Disney in one way or another. And normally when we read a story like this, I would be like, just quit, get
Yeah.
a better job. You can totally get a better job. But when it comes on the that story comes on the back of an 18% increase on my annual pass, and you want to take stuff away, and you rose prices, and you're doing all this stuff, and you have employees sleeping in parking lots.
And you're telling them to get it together.
Right. Well, yeah.
And
This
leave.
is security. Like, get out. It. I would be ashamed as an employer if I found out that one of my employees. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the circumstances. I've definitely like, changed my view on this kind of thing. Like, they want to work for your company.
Yeah.
Why aren't you helping them out? Why aren't you? And maybe they are, and maybe this is skewed. I don't know. But that coupled with the price increases made me kind of go.
feels dirty.
I feel weird right now. I feel weird as a Disney fan. I feel real weird.
Yeah.
That's not the first time that's happened.
That's true. Okay, that's it. Let's get out of here. Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't have my show outro because I'm still all jacked up, man. I don't know. Talk amongst yourself.
I wonder what could tie you to working at Disneyland to the point where you would live in your car.
Because you're the same kind of person who's a struggling waitress because you're trying to be an actress.
And you're trying to
Just-
move
Okay.
up
You're
in the
trying
company.
to move up, and that's a way. When you go for, we interviewed Steve. So when he goes for interviews or he goes for jobs and he goes for acting gigs, if you have Disney
Okay, I get it.
on there, it means so much.
Oh,
And
yeah.
So for some people it would be worth it. And also, I don't know you hear for all the feel good stories that you hear about a person who is the CEO of a company who hears that his employee is doing poorly and they help him out. For every one of those that you hear, you have a billion that never happen because no one knows.
Right.
And so I completely agree with you, but every corporation in the world runs this way.
Oh, no,
every
for sure.
single one runs this way.
But I don't feel good about buying a Windows machine. You know what I mean? I feel good about buying stuff from Disneyland. I'm supposed to
Yeah.
feel good about it, and that's the brand. And I guess I would feel much better about the price increases if they would just go, you know what? I know that we're supposed to pay, or the minimum wage is $10.50, but I'm going to pay everybody $12.
Yeah.
Just that's the entry level into here. Treat it like In-N-Out.
Yeah.
For me, I would feel much better about it because that's why I want to be doing this stuff. That's why I want to be going because I want to now that I know that a lot of these people are unhappy and they can't even afford to live in the area, much less have their own house. That now hurts my feelings. So when I go waiting for Cars ride or whatever, and there's this 22-year-old kid trying to load me in my big fat gut into the car ride, like, you know what I mean? Where's this kid sleeping? It humanizes the park in a way that I didn't expect, and I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
Every single person I know that has worked for Disney says you don't want to know what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. So
Anyway, sorry everybody.
Sorry,
These
this
are
isn't
things-
the secret show. Sorry.
But you know what? Hey, man, these are things that we think about. We're human beings, and we care about other people, and we care about the park. And you know, as we've done it before, we've said it before on the show. Like we talk about good stuff and bad stuff, and we just have conversations that are in the collective mind right now. And this is a relevant story. Anyway. Here's a cool fact of the show. Beginning in 1958, Disneyland held an annual kids amateur dog show. One day each spring for about 10 years. Dogs were judged in various categories like largest, smallest, and shaggiest.
Okay.
There you go.
I like that.
I kind of like it too.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know why. Never heard about it.
It's cute.
Yeah.
I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
All right, everybody, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thank you to Jeremy for coming in and doing whatever he did about some fountain or something. Thank you very much to Kyle for coming on and doing whatever he did about Star Wars Land or something. And thanks to you guys for tuning in. Listen to this show. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to record the secret show for our Patreon folks in February. So if you want to figure out what we're going to say after that, I got a whole bunch of news for that, too. Some good stuff, too. Some grade A material. So become a patron for that secret show, John. It's only $5 a month. $5. And you can get all the secret shows. You can make a drink with us and hang out with us and be our friends. Anyway, until next time, everyone, we will see you in the parks.